The snowstorm had rolled in faster than anyone expected, thick flakes dancing wildly in the cold night air as the wind howled through the empty streets. The diner's neon sign flickered against the storm like a heartbeat in the dark. Maggie's Diner, open 24 hours. Inside, Maggie stood behind the counter, her hands trembling slightly as she poured a cup of coffee for the only customer brave enough to come in that night. Her apron was stained from a long day's work, her red hair pulled into a messy bun, and her tired green eyes scanned the empty booths where laughter used to echo years ago. She had inherited the diner from her late mother, the only thing she had left, and lately, it seemed like even that was slipping away. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and good people still existing in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Tales, because stories like this one remind us that hope is never truly lost. It had been a brutal winter. Business was slow, and the bills piled up faster than she could pay them. The roof leaked, the heater rattled, and some nights, she would count coins just to afford milk for the next morning's coffee. But even in her exhaustion, Maggie smiled at every stranger who walked through the door. Her mother used to tell her, "Kindness costs nothing, baby, but it can buy a miracle." Those words echoed in her heart as she wiped down the counter for what she thought would be the last time that night. Then, the rumble came. A deep, thunderous sound that grew louder with every passing second. Motorcycles. 10 of them. Their headlights cut through the snow as the riders pulled into the diner's parking lot, engines growling like beasts against the winter storm. Maggie's heart skipped a beat. She'd heard stories, rough men on bikes, leather jackets, the kind of people small-town folks whispered about but never dared approach. Yet here they were, walking in, snow clinging to their boots, leather jackets dripping from the storm. They filled the diner with presence, large, silent, and intimidating. She tried to smile, her voice shaking slightly as she asked what they wanted. The man who seemed to lead them, tall, with a gray beard and eyes that had seen too much, looked at her quietly and said, "Just some hot food, ma'am. We've been riding all day." Something in his tone was unexpectedly gentle. Maggie nodded, her hands moving fast, preparing plates of eggs, bacon, pancakes, anything warm she could find. She barely had enough supplies left for tomorrow, but tonight, it didn't matter. No one was going to go hungry under her roof. As the snowstorm worsened, Maggie realized the men wouldn't be able to leave. The roads were buried, visibility gone. The leader, whose name she later learned was Duke, offered to pay for rooms at a motel if she wanted to close, but she just shook her head. "There's no motel close enough to make it through that storm," she said quietly. "You can stay here. I'll make some coffee." They hesitated, unsure of her kindness. But she brought out blankets from the back room, some old but warm, and spread them out by the booths. The bikers, once intimidating shadows in leather, now looked more like tired souls grateful for a place to rest. They told her bits of their story, veterans, mechanics, truckers, men who had lost homes, families, or hope. One had a scar across his cheek, another wore a cross around his neck. They weren't bad men, just broken ones. All night long, Maggie kept the coffee hot and the diner warm. She didn't sleep. She couldn't afford to, not with the storm outside and her gas bill overdue. The heater groaned, the wind screamed against the windows, but inside the little diner, there was laughter again. The bikers told stories, helped her fix a flickering light, and even washed dishes when the sink overflowed. Duke noticed her hands shaking as she wiped the counter and asked if she was okay. Maggie smiled weakly and said, "Just tired. It's been a long few months." When the dawn finally broke, the storm had passed, and so had the night. The men thanked her, one by one, leaving behind generous tips and quiet smiles. Duke was the last to leave. He stood by the door, looked around the diner, and said softly, "You didn't have to do this for us, but you did. I won't forget it." Maggie nodded, thinking she'd never see them again. That afternoon, she went to open her cash drawer and realized the bikers had left hundreds of dollars, far more than the food had cost. It brought tears to her eyes. But the real miracle came the next day. The sun had barely risen when Maggie heard the sound again, the distant thunder of engines. She stepped outside, wiping her hands on her apron, expecting maybe Duke and his group to stop by and say goodbye. But what she saw made her knees weak. The road leading to her diner was lined with motorcycles, not 10 this time, but hundreds. By noon, there were nearly 1,000 bikers filling the parking lot, standing shoulder to shoulder in the snow. Duke was at the front, holding a sign that read, "We take care of those who take care of us." He had posted Maggie's story online the night before, how a poor waitress with nothing had opened her doors to 10 strangers in a storm. The biker community had seen it, shared it, and arrived in force. Some came from miles away just to eat breakfast at Maggie's diner, leaving massive tips, donations, and promises to spread the word. The news caught wind of it, cameras arrived, and soon, the tiny diner that had been close to closing forever became a symbol of kindness and hope. Maggie could hardly believe it. The woman who once counted pennies to survive now stood in tears as lines of bikers thanked her. They fixed her roof, bought her new kitchen equipment, and even set up a fund to keep the diner running. Duke told her quietly, "You gave us warmth when we had nowhere to go. Now it's our turn." Weeks later, Maggie's diner became famous. But to her, the fame didn't matter. What mattered was that her mother's words had come true, kindness had bought her a miracle. Every day after that, she made sure her "open" sign stayed lit, even in the darkest storms, because she knew someone out there might just need a warm cup of coffee and a little bit of faith. And sometimes, late at night, when the snow fell just right and the roads went quiet, Maggie would hear that familiar rumble again, engines cutting through the cold, and she'd smile, knowing her biker family was never far away. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, and share this video to spread the message of compassion and humanity. Subscribe to Kindness Tales for more stories that prove good people still exist in this world. Special request: in the comments, write, "Kindness still lives," if you believe that one small act of compassion can change everything.